Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We are so happy to have you here tonight. This is the Stronger Marriage webinar produced by the Utah Marriage Commission and hosted by Utah State University. My name is Ryan Gordon. I am the UMC program coordinator, and I will be your host for this event. And I'm very happy tonight to be joined by our presenter, Timothy Garner. Thank you so much for being here, Tim. We're happy to have you.
Yeah, thanks. Happy to be here.
Thank you. So, just a couple of quick reminders to our attendees before we get started. First, if you could please make sure to stay on until the end of the session to take a short feedback survey, and that will also give you the opportunity to receive your continued education credits if you're needing those. We will also have a Q&A at the end of the presentation, and you can submit your questions through the Q&A function at the bottom of the page or under your More tab there in Zoom. It's in a little speech bubble. The chat won't be open for participants, so if you could please make sure to submit your questions through that Q&A function for Tim, that would be fantastic. And now let me share with you just a little bit about our presenter here for this webinar. Tim is a licensed marriage and family therapist and has lived in Utah for 9 years with his wife and two daughters. He loves traveling with his family, watching softball, and going to Disney. And before I keep going, Tim, I have to ask, what's your favorite ride?
Oh, Big Thunder Mountain, hands down.
Good stuff. That's my son's favorite ride. He's a big train guy,
Yeah,
so I
love
love
it.
Big Thunder Mountain. That's great. Um, Tim is also an AAMFT supervisor. He also provides individual therapy, and he also acts as a business consultant and coach for mental health entrepreneurs or business owners. So he is a busy guy, it sounds like. And
Very.
tonight, Tim's presentation is entitled Somatic Work for Emotional Regulation in Relationships. And I'm really looking forward to learning more from him about this topic. So, Tim, thanks again so much for being here. And let's just turn the time over to you to just jump right in here.
Awesome. Thank you, Ryan. And thank you, everyone, for taking time in your evening. I'm sure you guys are all busy. May is crazy busy, right? All the time. So it means a lot to me that you took time out of your day in your busy evening. My kids are spread out right now. My wife is working and gone, so I am home alone, interestingly enough, which rarely happens, but I know May is super busy, so thank you. I really appreciate it. And thank you, Ryan, for the great introduction. I don't really think I need to do anything else with that introduction. The only thing I would add to it, I guess, or reiterate is please ask questions. I'm so happy to answer those. I am not by any means an expert in this field. I just really love it. And it's something that has really helped me through my own journey, through my own process and healing. I use somatic work every day in my career, but also in my own personal life to help emotionally regulate myself and help me in relationships that I have, whether it's coworkers or other professional relationships, romantic relationships, family relationships, any of it. So use it all the time. Really feel very, very lucky that I've been able to get to that place in my life to be healed enough, I guess, to be able to work on that. So yeah, today we're just going to go over a few different types of somatic therapy or somatic framework. So here's just the list of the areas that I'm going to cover. Again, just a very general overview, very high level information about somatic therapy and how it relates into relationships. So, we're going to talk about grounding as a technique to help center ourselves and stay connected to the earth or a solid state. We're going to talk about body scanning and how we can learn how to look into our bodies and figure out what's going on with them and figure out what it means when maybe I've got something going on, depending on what part of the body it is, and how movement really helps us, like changing the body position with guided intention and how that influences our mental and emotional state, touch and how connecting the body with outside resources can be really very beneficial in grounding us and helping us to to stay centered, breath work and how impactful it is and how easy it is and how easily misunderstood it is as well. So lifespan integration is another therapy. These next three, lifespan, EMDR, ART, are more formulated therapies. So these are therapies that you would need like actual training, sit down with a specialist in this area to receive your training there. But we'll go over them and how they kind of help us throughout our process. I know that we are going to be with clinicians tonight and non-clinicians alike, and so some of my comments today may be a little bit geared more towards clinicians and working with clients, and then also some of my comments may be more towards individuals who are not clinicians and how they can help their relationships. Although there's going to be a lot of overlap, and hopefully I don't exclude anybody in this by any means, but I hopefully I can kind of cover my bases there. A little disclaimer, the just so you understand, as I mentioned before, we're looking at this from like a high level viewpoint. So as clinicians, you always need to be able to know your scope, know your limits, be able to work within those scopes and seek consultation as you need to and seek training, for instance, with the EMDR, ART, lifespan integration type therapies. And for those of you who are not clinicians, just also recognizing like we could always expound on this. I could spend hours talking about somatic work and how it relates to us. But if anybody ever needs further training, I'm happy to do that. Go into a little bit more specifics of how these treatments and interventions can help us. So first area, we'll talk a little bit about grounding. So just on that right side, grounding is definitely more physical, meaning that we're doing something with our body, usually in like a movement-based something. So we can involve other stimuli, such as like touching grass, hugging a tree. It can be very simple and take just a few minutes. It is not something that we have to, quote unquote, go to therapy for an hour-long session in order to ground. We can do it in our backyard. We can do it in the park. We could do it in our own home. So this helps to connect someone specifically with the earth or their surroundings, the room that they're in, the chair that they're sitting in, the bed that they're laying in, wherever they are, to help center them in a way. It provides calmness, and it can be done multiple times a day. We can learn to adapt this type of somatic work to a lot of different areas for us, and we can do it multiple times throughout the day to help us regulate ourselves and to get us into a good place. So I kind of broke it into two areas, right? We have this outside and then inside version. So the outside area is things like walking in grass. Some of you may be like sensory overload with that. So there are other techniques that you can do with it. But I think walking on some kind of firm area, whether that's grass, concrete, sand, dirt, mud, anything that's like going to get you and your body in a place where you feel solid, secure, and comfortable. You can use your feet to like walk in these areas, or you can use your hands as you need to. You can just sit in an area. So, a lot of times when I go to sporting events with my kiddos, I will find a good patch of grass and just go sit there. I don't want to sit in a chair. I don't want to sit around other people or in bleachers. I just want to like literally find a little nice patch of sun, or if it's too hot, patch of shade, and just sit and kind of reconnect myself with the earth. I know we sound a little bit like the tree huggers, right? So, but hugging a tree is actually really beneficial. It connects you with nature, and there is a real sense of comfortness that comes to like, you know what, there are things around me that maybe I don't understand, maybe I do understand, but this tree provides some kind of um, awareness for me to be in this area. And so that's just what I mean by that. Digging in the dirt, some of us are green thumbs. That is not me. I do not have a green thumb. I can kill a plant super fast. If it's not a durable kind of vegetation, it's not growing in my area for some reason. But digging in the dirt is actually really helpful. I used to know a friend who used to go pull weeds, and that was her centering activity. So if you garden, if you pick flowers, any of that kind of stuff, just kind of getting you connected with nature. On the inside, when you are maybe you can't go outside, right? So a lot of us live in Utah, maybe the Idaho area gets pretty cold in the winter. You can still go outside. You can get the sun. You can walk your feet in the snow, even though it's super cold outside. But if you're not able to go outside, you can do a lot of things inside. So the first technique here is in to out. So basically, we just start inside our body and we kind of recognize where we are. So some of us can close our eyes if we need to focus a little bit more, maybe put our head down and just kind of recognize where our body is in the space around me. And then I just move outside of my body. So right now I'm sitting in a chair. It's a rolly chair with some cushions on it, relatively comfortable. They've got some wheels. This chair is sitting on some carpet in my office. I'm in a room, virtual room with all of you wonderful people. So that's just the idea of just kind of centering ourselves and recognizing where we are in space. So that's the in to out one. Five senses. So all of you hold your hands up. I can't see you, so don't feel like you're being silly at all, but please hold your hands up. This is just an easy way for us to remember all of our five senses. For some reason, some of us forget these. So if you place your thumb on your ear, that's hearing, right? Then we have our eye, which is seeing, nose, which is smelling, our mouth, which is tasting, and then just your chin, which is touching. So just a quick way to remember like sound, sight, smell, taste, touch. Um, a lot of therapists will use this five senses mentality or idea or intervention to help people calm themselves, center themselves. It can be done in a myriad of ways. I'm not super picky on it. Some people are like five, four, three, two, one. You've got a five things you can see, four things you can touch. If you're going to do it that way, we want the higher numbers of things that are like a little easier accessible. So, five things I can see, right? I can always see five things around me. If I can touch four things, that's usually pretty easy, right? I can touch my computer, a keyboard, a water bottle, and my phone, whatever. Three things I can hear usually is the better one. If we really become silent, just kind of let your mind wander and you kind of your hearing turns back on a little bit. We can hear three things hopefully around you. Two things you can typically smell, right? Whether that's your own self, like a deodorant or perfume or hair shampoo. Um, Horrible, hopefully it's not a horrible breath, right? And then one thing you can taste. Usually, when we're doing this in the therapist office, I can't taste a bunch of things like maybe a cup of water, maybe my own saliva, but that's why we use those last ones on those last amount of ones, or the fewer amount of ones. I don't know if you guys are any Die Hard fans at all, but in the opening scene in Die Hard it talks about scrunching your toes into the carpet. I'm doing that right now with myself. I don't have any shoes on right now, so that helps me to ground myself when I'm inside. And then all of these things are just really centering, which we'll talk about here in a little bit more about centering. But centering is basically just like finding what's in our inside us and keeping our minds out of the past and out of the future and keeping them in the present. So that's just grounding. Again, just in a nutshell, just some techniques to be able to have on hand for when you need them. So, body scanning is how we figure out what's going on within us. Whether it is a like my shoulders are really tight, or I'm clenching my jaws or clenching my fists. This is just a way to kind of bring forward the things that are going on in our body. So preparation, best way to do it is honestly laying down. We can sit down and do this. We can stand up and do this. Laying down is just the better option. And in a space where it's calm and quiet, something that you can, a place you can be to be able to actually focus on the energy that's going out with you throughout your body. So we want to take some calming breaths first. Calming breaths for me, always in my nose, out of my mouth. So it doesn't have to be any like super deep breaths, just a couple of those to be able to focus on my breathing, calm my mind. Again, turn on my ears, turn on my other senses that I have, turn on my internal senses of like what's going on with my body. And we want to use our mind to look more than our eyes, right? We can't really look inside of us with our eyes. So we want to think about this in a way of focusing on other areas in our body. Now, your body is constantly sending messages to your brain, always. 100% of the time, you're getting all of these messages. Now, this is the time to kind of sift through those messages and figure out what's going on. So the actual scan can look something along the lines of if you're working on your whole body, you want to start at your toes. Again, I'm laying down, my eyes are closed. I've done a few cleansing, calming breaths, and then I'm just focusing on my body. So I start at my toes and I literally go through every single toe that I have. I go up the arch of my foot, the top of my foot, my ankle, as slow or as fast as you want it to be. It's always up to you. And then once you get to a part of your body where you're like, oh, what's going on there? My knee's a little tight. My back's a little sore. My stomach is full. My heart is racing. My chest feels really tight. We're just being able to focus on those areas. We're not really doing anything yet about it, but we're just being able to bring awareness to like what's happening inside of me. And so that's kind of the next section, that third section up there. But just always remember, continue to breathe throughout this. And in the beginning, it's even better. This is kind of like the graduated version to set an intention of like, today, I want to figure out what's causing me stress, what's causing me to be sad, what's making it hard for me to sleep, what's happening throughout my whole body right now, whatever that intention is. So this just helps to bring a little bit of awareness to in your body so that you can just recognize what's going on, right? We can do this once we figure out the kind of technique behind it. We can do this throughout the day. We don't need to lay down anymore. I can do this while I'm working. I can do this while I'm waiting in line at the grocery store, while I'm driving. Now, don't be too distracted while you're doing something that needs to be pretty safe, right? I don't want you to like get too into your body and lose your ability to drive appropriately. Don't get too distracted in the line at the grocery store where you forget to put your items on the grocery belt. But ultimately, we can do this all the way throughout the day. One way that helps me kind of center myself is to like blink my eyes with intention. I know that sounds a little bit weird, but like I'll close my eyes and kind of squinch them a little bit, and then I'll just blink them open. And then I look up and take a big breath, and then I just kind of make myself aware of what's going on around me. And this will help us to be able to manage any of these concerns that might arise throughout our body. Benefits, just a really quick way to check in with our body, figure out what's going on, what's happening here. If you are in, so kind of going to the relationship side of things, if you're in a heated agreement with a partner or, someone at work, someone at the grocery store with your kids or whatever it is, and you take a second to scan your body, you can help yourself realize like, oh man, I'm really tense. This is causing something that's going on in me. And if I know that I carry my frustration in my chest or in my neck, and I feel super tightness in my chest or my neck, then I may realize like, man, I must be really frustrated by what's going on right now. And so when I say decide where the pain is coming from, I don't necessarily mean physical pain. It could just be a tightness or a stretching or a tiredness, a weariness, a soreness of anything. And that can help you realize, like, so normally I'm frustrated when I feel tightness in my chest. I'm feeling tightness in my chest, so I must be frustrated right now, right? And then hopefully we can figure out a way to relax, which we'll talk about here in a second. And this can help us in relationships, in communication skills, so that we can focus on our body, maybe even versus focusing on what we're going to say next. A lot of times that happens with us is we think, man, I'm going to come up with the next phrase and I'm going to come back with a really cool comeback. And oh, they said that, that's not true. And I'm going to give them evidence as to why it's not true. Versus, how can you listen to them when you're doing that? So maybe we just focus on body scanning instead. Not necessarily even doing anything about it just yet, but just becoming aware of like what's happening in our body. So this little flyer here is from Simple Practice. It's literally simplepractice.com, so you can download it from there if you'd like to. You can't click on the screen, unfortunately, right now for it, but my slides will be available, so you can totally use this. If you want to take a screenshot of this or take a picture of it, go ahead. I'll give you a couple of seconds to do so. Just a cool little thing, kind of what I just described, but going through it a little bit more in depth, and also how to use meditation in order to help you through this body scanning to maybe help you with emotional regulation or help your mental clarity, a little bit more like advanced self-care. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide. Hope you guys got your pictures of that. Again, it'll be available afterwards. Okay, so next one is movement. So when I think of movement, a lot of times people will come to me and be like, Tim, I don't want to exercise. People tell me to do yoga, I'm not that flexible. We don't have to do strenuous movement in order to work on somatic therapy. So, just kind of these four little areas: weight sensing, rooting through the feet, center of gravity awareness, rocking or swaying. These are all just ways of like kind of getting our body in a place where I'm like, I need to center. I need to have a purpose. I need to have an intention about what's going on right now. If we're talking about in relationships, right? If you're working, you're in a long meeting with a whole bunch of uh, colleagues and your boss, and you're just like, oh, I'm not even focusing right now. What's going on? Why can't I pay attention to these kind of things? These are some things to do. So weight sensing, just kind of feeling the weight of your body through your feet, through your legs, through your seat. Notice how the ground supports you. Maybe even like pushing a little bit. So that's rooting through the feet. So like pressing lightly into the floor, pressing lightly into your seat a little bit. You can even grab the bottom of your seat right now if you want to, and like pull yourself into your chair and then release. Take a big breath. I kind of contemplating putting breathing at the beginning of this because all of them kind of have a breathing component, but breath work is so important, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. Center of gravity awareness is like just kind of recognizing that are you centered right now? Are you able to like balance yourself appropriately? Are you sitting like super far down in your chair and like super slumped over? No, I can't see any of you, just FYI. Are you like really close to the screen right now and like moving too far on the edge of your seat and not really centered somewhere? So when we are centered in gravity, our bodies can actually work and function a lot better. And so that centeredness comes from our core muscles, like in our belly and in our pelvis. And if we can um, have better posture and be able to be centered a little bit more, we can actually breathe better, which then also helps us reconnect ourselves. So that's just kind of that center of gravity piece. Rocking or swaying is a little bit different. I don't know if I would do this in a company meeting, right? Maybe this is something that we can do on our own if we need to. Or if you are, been sitting down for a while in a conversation, maybe with your spouse or your child or something, just being like, you know what, I just need to get up and stretch for a second. And the idea behind this is like literally gentle, rhythmic motion, whether that's with our neck, our shoulders, our core, our arms, our legs, whatever works, just to kind of tell your body, like, hey, I'm still here. We're still working. I need to still be awake. I still need to be centered. I still need to be aware of what's going on. So that's a little bit of behind movement. Okay, now we're on to breath work and touch. These are probably the two of the biggest ones that I really enjoy talking about because of the benefits that they have, and definitely breath work more than touch. So I'm going to spend a little bit more time on talking about breathing and how it works for us. Please do not fall asleep. Please do not zone out on this one. I think this one's super, super important for us. So breath work in just a nutshell is I put the little lungs, that cute little picture of the lungs there because breath work for us, the reason it's so important is because it's such a natural piece of our body. Our breathing is automatic. It's just something we do without thinking. It has to do that to be that way in order for us to stay alive and stay alert. I've been told that we can't really like make ourselves pass out just by holding our breath. Eventually, our body's going to be like, no, I've got you, and it's going to make you breathe. Now, obviously, you can constrict your airway in some way, but just by holding your breath, it's really difficult, if not almost impossible, to make yourself pass out that way because your body wants to live. Your body wants to survive. So breathing is inherent, and it's something that we can do super intentionally. It's also something that we can bring our awareness to when it's not working the way that we want it to, or in a way that maybe feels a little bit contrary to what we're normally used to. If we can make ourselves aware of our breathing on a regular basis, we can actually start to learn how to control our mind, our emotions, regulate ourselves. And so it's super powerful. The other really good benefit about breathing is when we breathe oxygen in, that oxygen goes into our bloodstream. This is simplistic. No, none of you nurses come for me right now or doctors, right? That oxygen goes into our bloodstream, and then that oxygenated blood goes into our brain. Our brain loves oxygenated blood. It loves it so much, it's like candy. And the more we can give it that oxygenated blood, the better it's going to work. And so, if we can do this with an intention, we can feed our brain and our mind. Our mind is different than our brain, right? So, our brain is tangible. It's something that, like, we could physically touch. Maybe I don't want to touch my brain necessarily, but our brain is something that's tangible. People have studied it, we've dissected it. Our mind isn't. We can't really like touch our mind, right? We know what it is. It's kind of hard to describe sometimes, but breathing can help us with our mind and our brain, both ways. So, when we breathe normally, right, we're usually just going to be breathing in and out of our nose. You might be a mouth breather, so you might breathe in and out of your mouth. You might do a little combination of both. Either way, none of it's wrong, right? But if we're doing it with intention, I like to do in through my nose and out through my mouth. And in through my nose is a slow, controlled breathing. And then out through my mouth, also slow and controlled. So it's not a type motion, right? It's slow and controlled, and I'm doing it with intention. Deep breaths come from working with our diaphragm or our belly muscles or belly breathing or however you want to describe it, right? I could go into a lot of detail with it, but I don't want to make this into too much of a biology lesson. But if we can figure out how to belly breathe instead of heaving our chest up and down to breathe, then we're going to have much more effective breathing techniques. One technique to try to help you with breathing, lay on the ground, put a heavy book on your belly, and try to push the book up and down just with your like core muscles, your ab muscles, those things that are in your core area. Another thing to think about is like taking your belly button and pushing it to your spine, or like someone's pulling the belly button with a string attached to a belly button through your spine. So that can like push some of this air out of your lungs. And then to breathe in, we want to pull the belly button string the opposite direction and inhale. And for those of you who don't know, you probably all do know because I'm sure you're super smart peeps. Our lungs are vacuums. So when we push all the air out of our lungs will automatically expand. It's just there for us. So that's what I want you to practice with me really quick. I want you to try to push all of the air out of your lungs and then release and see yourself breathe in. So you can do it with me, do it on your own. I'm going to do it and blow out. I just release. I didn't make myself breathe in, but my diaphragm muscle helped my lungs contract, and then my lungs naturally filled with air. So that's kind of just to help us do a little bit of belly breathing to get us into those deep breath areas. And we'll talk about deep breathing now. Deep breathing for me is that oxygenated blood thing that I was talking about earlier, and is a really good way to just like regulate our system. It also tells our body, like, hey, I can breathe really normal. My body is working the way that it's supposed to right now, and I'm making that happen. So, deep breath for me, these next two things, the square and the cookie, you guys probably have all have heard of square breathing. I hope you've heard of cookie breathing. I hope that's getting around a little bit more now. But if you think about your screen right now, it's not a square, it's a rectangle, I'm sure, but just there's four sides of it. So, excuse me, that's the idea behind square breathing is when you are doing it, instead of like thinking of numbers like 3, 4, 5 or 4, 5, 6, we just trace a square or a rectangle, four sides, right? So we inhale for going around the square once, we hold going around the square twice, and then we exhale going around the square the third time. Then we can do that 3 times if we so desire to do that. And I think that can help us kind of regulate ourselves. So we're just gonna breathe in for 4 counts, hold, and then breathe out, right? So that's that square breathing idea. This is just a really cool way to be able to teach people who don't really understand deep breathing how to do it. The cookie one I really like. So all you guys out there in the virtual world, take your two hands, put them together, and I want you to imagine whatever sweet, warm treat that you can. So if that's a cookie or a muffin or a waffle or a Rice Krispie treat or whatever it is, it's in your hand and it's super big, right? And it really smells super good. So you want to smell it. So we're going to inhale through our nose. And then we're going to savor the smell for a second. And then realize, oh man, that's kind of hot. This cookie is super. So I want to blow out and blow the cookie off. That's a fun one for kids to do because most kids can like cookies, right? So that's a fun one just for like visual effects to be able to say breathe in through our nose intently, hold, keep it, embrace it, savor the smell, and then release with intention to blow it out. Blowing out a candle is another one. So those are just some fun little techniques there. And this will help you as you practice things like this, like your breath work, to bring awareness to your breathing. So, this is where we get into a little bit more of the relational stuff. If you've ever been in a meeting with a boss, or if you've ever been in a heated conversation with your spouse, or if you've ever been in a frustrated conversation with your kiddos, or siblings, or parents, or whatever it is, usually your breath work is going to change. You're going to realize like your heart may be pounding a little bit more, your chest is a little bit tighter, You might have some like labor breathing. If you can focus on your breath work to recognize, man, I'm breathing pretty heavy right now, and we can figure out a way to calm that breath, it's not only going to help you regulate yourself so that you can pay attention to the conversation that's going on, but it's also might tell the other person, hey, Tim's not frustrated with me anymore. Because if I start the conversation off and this person's talking and I'm like, that's not really going to give off a good message that like Tim's really open and accepting to my conversation right now. It's probably going to be like Tim's really mad and he's probably going to go off on me in a second. So I want to be able to normalize my breathing. I want to be able to get my breathing in a controlled, healthy, slow pattern. And I can do that by breathing in through my nose, maybe just a couple breaths out my mouth, right? We don't want to give the other person the idea of like, why is this person breathing really weirdly right now? So maybe just a couple in and out through our mouth and nose. So in through our nose, out through our mouth. And then after that, we can return to hopefully like some more normal breathing of just in through our nose, out through our nose. Okay, so that's kind of breath work in a nutshell. Um, Again, I could speak hours on it. Love the idea of breath work. Definitely a good way for us to be able to regulate ourselves. Okay, touching things. This kind of goes back to grounding, which is what we were talking about earlier. Touching with our hands, our arms, our face, whatever we like to touch, whatever our sensory thing is, I want you to imagine that for you right now. So if yours is fingers, if yours is toes, if yours is body, whatever it is, connecting with something else through our body is usually going to help. Well, let me rephrase that. With intention, when it's appropriate. I don't want you to go touching a cactus, right? Or like a spiky caterpillar or bee or whatever, an ant. But touching things that we enjoy touching are going to help us regulate our emotions, regulate ourselves. Sometimes people like fidget spinners when they're doing something, and that's the same idea behind touching, maybe Play-Doh or slime or um, like a squishy ball to help them. So those are some ideas that help us to be able to regulate our emotions when we need to. We can do that with in a conversation. We can do that when we need know that we're going to be going into a conversation that may be heated, maybe frustrating, maybe kind of uncomfortable for us, or when we're leaving the conversation, when we're done with it, to kind of regulate our body. Man, that was a really hard conversation. That meeting was super heavy. Oh, that was a hard topic. Maybe I need to go get something tactile to like kind of center myself and get myself back to my baseline or within my window of tolerance, right? This can also touching can also be really helpful when we're working with someone else who we're really close to and we're comfortable touching. So, for instance, if you're talking to maybe like a spouse or a kiddo, I like to grab hands. I like to put my hand on their knee. I like to be able to help them recognize, like, I'm here, I'm ready, I'm present, I'm engaged. And that helps through our body chemistry to be able to, and our body movement and body language to be able to tell that person, like, okay, I can feel a little bit safer right now because of us touching each other. Some other just ideas behind touch is if you ever need to just bring yourself back into the moment, maybe you need to have something to be able to hold in your hands to keep yourself focused on that. Now, not a phone, right? That can actually distract us and make the other person feel like we're not super engaged. Um, but something else maybe that might help us like center ourselves and bring us back into the moment. Okay, now we're into a little bit more formalized trainings. So we have EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. Say that 5 times fast. ART, accelerated resolution therapy, which is kind of a sister modality to EMDR, and is they both hold this technique called bilateral stimulation, and so that helps. our brain basically to regulate itself. Lifespan integration is another somatic based therapy that brings the client in a therapy room throughout their lifespan and throughout their timeline. DBT has a lot of really cool uh, somatic based skills to kind of get people out of their negative thinking mode, to help center people. All four of these are really great trainings to develop if you are a therapist and looking to work with clients in the somatic world. However, I also just gave you a lot of really cool interventions and tips and tricks to work with your clients where you don't need these just yet. So if you're just brand new therapist and you're just kind of starting out on things, we don't have to get these things just yet in order to be effective therapists when we're working with kind of somatic based therapy. But these are things to think about on the client side of things, or for those who are not clinicians, if you ever want to attend therapy at all, these are therapies that can help a lot of times regulate behavioral issues, help with managing your trauma responses, working through anxieties, working through depression. DBT specifically was actually developed for people with borderline personality disorders, and then we started to develop other personality disorders that are super helpful with it. Also helps really well with like kids with oppositional defiance disorder. Helps to regulate our emotional systems, helping us be aware of it. So these are just some ideas, just so that you can get out there and understand kind of all of these letters that we have in our therapy world. Okay, so how do we implement this kind of stuff, right? So I'm going to speak a little bit to my clinicians first, then I want to speak to my non-clinicians second. So when we are worrying about, oh, man, how do I do this kind of somatic work with the clients that I have? First, we want to assess. We always want to figure out what's going on in with the client. We want to figure out where they are and we want to meet them where they are. If they are not ready to regulate just yet, then any of these things may be detrimental for them, maybe not super helpful. I don't know how many clients I've sat in front of that are like, yeah, don't tell me to deep breathe, don't tell me to do affirmations, don't tell me to blow on a candle. None of those things work. I've tried them before and they're not effective. And my thought to them would be maybe they're not effective. Maybe they're not effective for you. Maybe they weren't effective when you tried them. Maybe you didn't try them to fidelity. So maybe we can try some other options. So I like to practice all of these with clients in the room with me, real time. Don't just give them assignment and tell them to go home and try it. Do it with them so that you know that they're actually doing it in a way that is you're explaining it to them. Also know your limit, right? I mentioned earlier some of these more formulated trainings. If you are not able to help somebody because of your limitations in your knowledge, your limitations in trainings, or maybe the client has a higher acuity and they need a little bit more help, they need a higher level of care, maybe they need medication management, maybe it's not just for you, right? Maybe it's just not their time right now. I often believe as therapists, we will help clients at different points in their timeline. And so I may be that first therapist that's ever talked to them about any of this stuff. And it may completely go over their head because they have no idea what's going on with therapy or how to be in therapy or what therapy is about. So instead of throwing all these interventions at them, maybe I just need to listen to them for a little while first, right? And build that rapport. Providing examples, just like I did for you guys today. So I gave you examples of how to implement these. I gave you examples of what it looks like. I modeled it on myself and my own body so that you can understand how to model this for yourself and in your own world and in the world around you. And then also, like, how do I do this? I worked with one client one time who was really struggling with just being outside of her home for any reason whatsoever. And it became very apparent that she was not able to manage like her emotional regulation with any kind of intervention outside of her home. She's inside of her home, she can do a ton of stuff. Leaves her home, loses the ability to regulate emotionally. totally makes sense. So I want to give her specific examples of what it looks like. Like, what'd you do last week? Well, I went to my son's birthday party and it was really hard because there was a lot of people there. Okay, let's focus on the son's birthday party so that in the future, when we go to something else like a son's birthday party, this is exactly what you're going to do. This is how you can manage that. And then we practice it in session with us. Okay. Let's switch to my non-clinicians now. I have about 5 minutes. I'm going to open up for questions. So please flood my question and answer with questions. I'd love to be able to answer those for you. I probably have about like 4 minutes left, so I'm going to do that. My non-clinicians or my clinicians who are worrying about how do I implement this in my day-to-day life, not just with my clients. Same kind of process, right? We want to assess. I was talking to you earlier about being in maybe a business meeting with your colleagues and your boss and the big boss, and you're in this really intimidating conference room or whatever. You're sitting across from your spouse. They're unloading their heart to you. You don't know how to deal with them, or you do know how to deal with them and you're too frustrated or whatever it is. We want to assess the situation. What's going on right now? What's happening? Am I feeling overwhelmed? Am I in the right spot? Am I listening appropriately? Right? We're just assessing the situation, figuring out where we are. So, for instance, when my wife and I speak about things that are super heavy and difficult, maybe for us to speak about, we always try to talk to our kids and say, "Hey guys, we're going to talk for a little bit. You're welcome to come and talk to us. But if you could, for the next 15 or so minutes, just kind of leave us so that we can tend to what we need to get through right now." So, just assessing the situation and then also knowing your limits. If you're in a place right now because you've assessed yourself and your body is telling you, "Ooh, I am not in a place to talk about heavy, dark, stressful things," you need to be able to tell that partner of yours, "I might need a minute, right? Can I go shower? Can I go lay down for a minute? Can I grab a drink of water? Can we go outside on a walk?" What's your limit? What's your physical, emotional limit during that moment? Providing examples piece, same kind of idea. When you are working with someone else and maybe you realize they are kind of getting a little tense, a little riled up, instead of being like, "Calm down," right? Or "Stop talking like that," or "You're yelling at me." Maybe you would kind of want to model what behavior you want them to exhibit. If someone's voice is raising and they're getting louder and they're starting to yell at you, maybe you bring your voice down a little bit and you talk really calmly and you talk really slowly and you take some breaths and you pause for a minute and just let the room settle down a little bit. And hopefully that person will model that behavior behind you. Practice in session, practice all of these things, guys. Deep breathing, grounding techniques, any of that stuff that I've listed on those slides before. However, practice this over and over and over again. The more practice you do, the easier it will be to recall when you need it. If you go ground yourself and then later down the road, you're like, "Man, I am feeling super anxious right now, but I can't go outside and ground myself in the grass." Oh, but I can like ground myself in here and I can like scrunch my feet and I can scrunch my toes into to the carpet. Great. You practiced it before. Your mind recognized, "I felt this way when I was doing that. I want to feel that way again. I'm going to do this other activity that helps me with that." So okay, guys, that is it for me. This is my beautiful wife, Jenny, and me. We're in Carlsbad for this picture. We love to travel, as Ryan mentioned. I love presenting. I'm not fantastic at it, but I definitely love to work with you guys, and I'm gonna open up some questions. So let's see if we can. Ryan, do you have some of those that I
I
can
do,
answer?
Tim. I do. Thank you so much. That was such a great presentation. And you say I'm not very good at it. You did a great job. I
Oh,
love
thanks.
learning from you, and I loved how practical all of this information is, things that you can practice and do right now. Our first question that we have is, do you have any of these exercises or specific things to do as a couple? Which of these work really well together? with a partner.
I don't know exactly when that was asked, so I don't know if I know like
It
these.
was just barely. So probably just from the whole spectrum of exercises that you walked us
Okay, sure. Yeah, so my favorite exercises to do with my partner when I'm in a heavy heated conversation is if we feel comfortable enough to be able to do this is touching them. I also put distractions away, phones away, kids away, TVs off. And I like real in-person conversations. So I don't do a lot of texting. Now, texting sometimes has its place, and I feel like we can get things off of our chest in texting, and then we want to review them in person. So that's my first kind of ploy for that. In person is always better if you can be close to one another, and if you feel comfortable and safe enough to be able to touch them. I think that's really helpful. And then both of you recognize what's going on with the other one. If you're in a place to be able to say, you know what, I can sense that you're like tensing up. Like my wife does this thing where she like bites her lip like that. And I'm like, ooh, what's going on? Like, I know that's one of her trigger or one of her tell signs, one of her warning signs that says, I might need to do some deep breathing. And I may not want to present something super heavy handed right then or something that might be super hard to deal with. So that's a technique that I like really good. Is just kind of being able to recognize both of us. Like you can call out on your partner, hey, you look kind of tense. Hey, your voice is kind of raising. Earlier, I was saying, like, don't yell at them and say, calm down, right? That doesn't help. But you can say, hey, I noticed that you're a little frustrated right now. And I'm wondering if this is the best time to do this. Are you okay if we continue? Can we continue this conversation right now? Do we need to pause for a minute? Do we need to have a timeout? I love timeouts, by the way. If you're going to do a timeout, make sure that it's timed, meaning like we're going to be back in 5 minutes. Also, when you do timeouts, 5 minutes just means that we're revisiting it in 5 minutes. It doesn't mean that we're like restarting the conversation. It just means we're rechecking back in. And if you say 5 minutes, it's 5 minutes. If you say 10 minutes, it's 10 minutes. But it can be as general as like after dinner or before bed or tomorrow after you get home from work. So just as long as there's a time frame so that both of you know, like, okay, we're going to check in again to see how this goes. Hopefully that helps.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, that's great, Tim. Thank you. I'm not the presenter, the expert here, but I've also found that for me, um, my partner is so helpful in regulating when I'm feeling anxious about other things too. I think that's like a great resource. If it's not them that I'm struggling with or that am in conflict with or things like that, he is such a calming presence for me. And so that touch will breathe together. He will hold me, like those kinds of things can be so helpful when you are in an emotional space and in a heightened space. I think
Mhm.
partners can be so
Totally.
good for that. It's good not to rely solely on that. They're not in charge of regulating you, right?
Yeah.
But I think knowing your partner, knowing how you can help when they want it is really beneficial. Um, okay, we have another question. It says, what resources do you offer your clients for grounding in your office? Do you like fidgets or what brands do you like best?
Yeah, so grounding for me um is as much as I can, I want to like get the person connected with the ground. So that's my first thing as much as I can. If I've got someone in a ball, like knees to their chest, holding on super tight, I want to figure out a way to be able to release that. And so inviting them to like get their feet firmly planted on the ground, even if they feel comfortable enough taking off their shoes and socks, putting their feet into the carpet. If you can take them outside, I love outside therapy. I'm a big proponent of outside therapy, especially with teenagers, but as adults, it's great too. Go sit outside in the grass. If it's a beautiful day, go spend 20 minutes out there, right? Even if it's not a beautiful day. So that's my first ploy is to get the person connected to the actual ground. And then fidgets, I have a myriad of them, and honestly, I go through them because people want to take them home, and I have a hard time saying no to things like that. So I don't spend a lot of money on them. I don't know exactly where you are located, but Five Below has really cool, very inexpensive fidgets that you can have in your office. I do love a fidget spinner. I like squishy balls. I'm a big like pumping kind of action person, but that's me. Um, there's also a company, and I don't really know how to pronounce it. It's like Daiso or Daiso. It's a I want to say it's a Chinese-based company, but there's a few stores, like one in Cottonwood Heights. There's one in Roy Clinton area, and they also have a lot of really inexpensive things that you can have. A good pillow, honestly, like a stuffed animal, just grabbing a pillow and being able to like hold on to it. A weighted blanket also really helps to ground people. Senses, so like something to smell. I'm not, I do love a essential oil, like having a diffuser in your office, but I'm not saying it has to be that. Just something that's like natural and flowy, which also means like get the stinky stuff out of your office. So if you just ate lunch or had a banana or something like that, like go take the trash out before you see your client just to help them stay centered in the office. And then try to like remove distractions. So I ask people not to get on their cell phones. I also ask, that you are on time so that we're not like rushing through the session. All of those things help the client to stay centered in the room. And then as far as like techniques to help them outside of the room, you can even send them home with those fidgets, or you can just offer them and say like, hey, find these on Amazon. They're super cheap. Here are some stores. I don't know if I otherwise like, I don't really have any brands or specifics that I like.
Thank you. We are just about out of time, but I'll add one more question um, that kind of piggybacks on that. What do you have any specific like meditation resources or those you shared that body scanning worksheet, but like are there any other apps or things that are really great for people to use that make that easier?
Yeah, so Calm and Headspace are two really good apps that are out there. There are several other ones that have come out since those, and I'm not super familiar with all of the names of them. YouTube honestly has a lot of really cool ones. If you ever do YouTube ones, you want to check your volume, you want to check ads that are going to pop up. There are settings to be able to like not have an ad pop up right at the end of the session, so that because that can be super distracting. But the reason I like YouTube is there are a lot of really specifics. You can get like really crazy specific with it, of like meditation for 5 minutes for first responders who've dealt with trauma. Meditation with a sound bowl and birds chirping in the background. Like there's a lot of different ones that are on there. And honestly, like Alexa has some brown noise. Brown noise is actually really good. So if you have an Alexa device in your office, sometimes I'll just listen to brown noise with my clients or green noise with my clients. I don't love the white noise as much anymore because I feel like it's kind of distracting. And I like in my office, especially, my lights are typically dim. And as far as other meditations, I do this one where I'll light a candle. And so it's obviously got to be a good smell for you, or you're not allergic to any. I'll light a candle and I'll just watch it burn, and I'll just play with breath work and not quite blowing out the candle, but being able to move the candle. So breathing in and then blowing just enough to like flicker the candle and focus on it. That's a really great calming one for me. Flame, for some reason, is like, I think is one of those like earthly things that we can help regulate our systems.
I love that. Thank you so, so much. Thank you, Tim. This has been fantastic. And I'm excited to try that cookie breathing with my kids. I haven't heard that one before. So thank you so much just for all of
Yeah.
these tools that you shared. And thank you so much to everyone who joined us. We are so grateful for your questions and your participation.
Yeah.
Again, please stick around at the when we end this webinar just to fill out that survey for us and also to get those CEU credits. It just helps us make sure that we are meeting your needs and Uh, and you can get that certificate for those with that survey. And if it doesn't automatically pop up for you, or if you have other questions for us, feel free to send us an email at marriagecommission@usu.edu and we'll get back to you. And then we have two really great presentations coming up in the near future. The first will be on May 28th, given by Caitlin Zito, and it will be on the topic of navigating infertility as a couple. So we're looking forward to that one. And then on June 11th, Tammy Hill is going to be sharing with us about dating with children after divorce or loss. So make sure you register for those. You can do that at our website, strongermarriage.org. And thank you again, Tim. I see you've got where people can find you down on this slide here. So if you want to reach out to Tim, and Tim, are you wanting us to send out these slides afterwards?
That'd be great. Yeah, I can get them to
Perfect.
you.
Okay, we'll make sure to send out those slides. So thank you so much, everyone, and we hope you have a great night. Thanks for being here.
Bye, guys. See ya.